Welcome to the Mtcc Responsible Alcohol Training Program. This program is not a replacement, but in addition to a mandatory requirement of completing the Smart Serve certification program before starting a job at Mtcc. This program has been developed for Mtcc waiters and bartenders who serve alcoholic beverages or work in areas where alcohol is being served. The purpose of this program is to promote responsible alcohol service on the premises. The following topics are covered in this program:
legal rights, responsibilities, and liabilities. Facts about alcohol. How alcohol affects the human body. What is intoxication and how to spot it. Forms of identification. Prevention and intervention techniques. Mtcc in-house policies and regulations. Each staff member will be completing this program every 3 years to ensure that policy knowledge is up to date in order to provide a safe and enjoyable environment for both guests and employees of Mtcc.
Legal rights, responsibilities, and liabilities. Sales and service of alcohol to the public in Ontario is regulated by Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario, the AGCO. The AGCO is responsible for reviewing, issuing, and transferring liquor sale licenses as well as inspecting licensed facilities and taking administrative actions in the case of an establishment not following legislations or regulations. The legislation that outlines the laws and regulations affecting the sale and service of alcohol in Ontario is the Liquor License Act, or LLA. Under the LLA, any establishment that sells or serves alcohol must have a valid liquor sales license and must follow a strict set of regulations, such as:
no alcohol can be watered down or altered without a guest's consent. Alcohol must not be sold or served to individuals under 19 years of age. Only individuals 18 years or older can sell, service, or handle alcohol in a licensed establishment. Signs warning women that drinking alcohol during pregnancy can cause fetal alcohol spectrum disorder must be posted in areas of alcohol service. Guests must not be required to purchase a minimum number of alcoholic beverages. One type of alcohol must not be substituted with another without a guest consent. Light meals and alcohol-free beverages must be available at all times of alcohol service. All alcohol sold and served must be consumed exclusively in licensed areas. At Mtcc, these areas do not include washrooms, stairwells, and escalators.
Times of service. Under the LLA, the sale and service of alcohol can only take place between 11 a.m. and 2 a.m., 3 a.m. for New Year's Eve. All orders of alcohol must be served before the stop service time. No drinks can be served after 2 a.m. Serving alcoholic beverages at 2:01 is against the law except on New Year's Eve. All alcohol and its containers, including empty bottles and glasses, must be cleared away within 45 minutes of the stop service time. No alcohol, opened or unopened, can be permitted to be taken home by guests from Mtcc premises. Under the LLA, a server is not allowed to sell or serve alcohol to a guest to the point of intoxication. A server must further ensure that a guest is not in danger of causing injury or damage to themselves or others. This responsibility does not end when a guest leaves the premises. Both the establishment and server are still liable until a guest is sober. This could be a couple of hours or even the next day. When a server and/or establishment fails to prevent damage to a guest or others, they could be fined for payment of damages, stand civil or criminal charges, and face jail time. Currently, maximum fines for an individual server failing to meet the regulations of the LLA are $100,000 and/or imprisonment for up to 1 year. Additional penalties that could be served include license suspension, academic sanctions, and job loss. Servers must be aware of the risk posed by serving alcohol at all times. Even situations that would not generally be considered dangerous could become such if an intoxicated guest is exposed to them. Where there is liability, there should be rights. To protect servers and establishments from harm, the LLA designed the right to deny entry and the right to eject guests. According to the LLA, an establishment or a server can stop a guest from entering the premises if
the establishment is too crowded. The person is disruptive. The person is underage. The person is already intoxicated. Entry cannot be denied to on-duty AGCO inspectors, law enforcement officers, firefighters, and government inspectors, building code inspectors, health inspectors, etc.
It is a server's right to refuse alcohol service to a guest. If a guest appears intoxicated or might become intoxicated based on their consumption rate, a server can and must stop further servicing of this guest. No one has a right to overrule such decisions. Even if a manager or an establishment owner wants to continue to service the guest, the server has the right to refuse. Guests who are intoxicated, disruptive, and/or out of control are required to be ejected from the premises. However, it is important to keep in mind that a server's right to eject a guest does not remove his or her responsibility for a foreseeable injury suffered by a guest or others as a result of being ejected. Alcohol and its effects on the human body. Alcohol is a colorless, volatile liquid that is produced by the natural fermentation of sugars and is an intoxicating constituent of wine, beer, spirits, and other drinks. It is classified as a depressant, meaning that it slows down vital body functions, resulting in slurred speech, unsteady movement, disturbed perceptions, and an inability to react quickly. As for how it affects the mind, it is best understood as a drug that reduces a person's ability to think rationally and distorts his or her judgment. While classified as a depressant, it is the amount of alcohol consumed that determines the type of effect. Most people drink for the stimulant effect, such as a beer or a glass of wine taken to loosen up. But if a person consumes more than the body can handle, they then experience alcohol's depressant effect. They start to feel stupid or lose coordination and control. Alcohol overdose causes even more severe depressant effects, the inability to feel pain, toxicity where the body vomits the poison, and finally unconsciousness, or worse, coma or death from severe toxic overdose. These reactions depend on how much is consumed and how quickly. When consumed, alcohol travels down the throat to the stomach and intestines, where it absorbs into the blood. The bloodstream carries alcohol throughout the body, including the brain and other tissues. Alcohol is metabolized in the liver by body chemicals that break down the alcohol at a rate of approximately 1 hour per standard drink. Approximately 90% of the alcohol is then slowly eliminated from the bloodstream. The remaining 10% of the alcohol is removed through sweat, breath, and urine. Alcohol is metabolized slower than it is absorbed. For that reason, servers need to control their guests' drinking to prevent intoxication. The tool used to estimate how much alcohol an individual can safely consume is called the BAC chart, where BAC stands for blood alcohol concentration, a measure of the level of alcohol in the bloodstream, milligrams of alcohol per 100 milliliters of blood. Several factors that affect BAC.
Body size. A smaller person would have higher BAC than a larger person because alcohol is concentrated in a smaller body mass. Body fat. People with a lot of body fat tend to have higher BAC because alcohol is not absorbed into fatty tissues. Gender. Women tend to have a higher BAC as they tend to have a higher proportion of fatty tissue than men. Physical health and fitness. Muscular people have more total body water and less fatty tissue. As alcohol distributes itself in total body water, a lean person would have lower BAC than an unfit person. Age. The ability to metabolize alcohol decreases with age. Therefore, an older person would have a higher BAC than a younger person. Time between drinks. The shorter the time interval between drinks, the higher the BAC. Food and alcohol-free drinks. Water, juice, along with protein-rich food eaten before drinking, hold alcohol in the stomach longer, slowing down the rate at which alcohol enters the bloodstream. Consumption of salty snacks, though, can cause thirst and promote higher rate of drinking and therefore a higher BAC. Medication. Use of prescription or over-the-counter drugs can increase the effects of alcohol. Environment. Relaxed environment promotes slower rate of drinking and therefore a lower BAC.
It is important to remember that personal tolerance does not affect BAC. Experienced drinkers have the tendency to increase the amount they drink to feel the same effects from alcohol and show fewer signs of intoxication. It does not, however, mean that their BAC is low. It is entirely possible for a guest to be too drunk to drive and yet show no signs of intoxication. In Ontario, a BAC of 0.05 can lead to a driver's license suspension. A BAC of 0.08 or over is a criminal offense. Even if BAC is lower than 0.08, a driver can still be charged with impaired driving under the criminal code. Remember, intoxication starts with the very first drink. To be able to make decisions about the amount of alcohol that can be served to a guest, a server should always be alert and look for the following signs of intoxication.
Physical appearances such as sweating, becoming drowsy, sleepy or red-faced, slower breathing, a glazed look in the eyes, red eyes, slurring of speech, slower response times and movement, difficulty seeing and hearing. Coordination and balance, unable to pick up objects, unable to sit straight, spilling drinks, swaying, knocking things over, stumbling, bumping into things, holding on to objects while standing or walking. Reason, caution, and memory. Wanting to drive while intoxicated, leaving a drink on a table and ordering another one, forgetting where they are and where they came from, unable to figure simple calculations, and losing train of thought. Poor judgment, complaining about the strength of drinks and prices, changing consumption rates, making irrational statements, being careless with money. Loss of self-control and inhibitions, being overly friendly, using foul language, loud speech, repeating stories and jokes, making sexual advances, annoying other guests.
It is, however, important to remember that those signs are not always the signs of intoxication. There are medical conditions whose symptoms may mimic those of someone who is intoxicated. Therefore, it is important for servers not to jump to conclusions without talking to the individual. Servers are not expected to know about these conditions, but they need to be sensitive to the possibility that something other than alcohol may be responsible for a guest's symptoms. They should use their experience and judgment to make the right call. Remember, communication is the key. Creating a safe and enjoyable environment. A safe and enjoyable environment is a key to a successful event. It is both the establishment and server's responsibility to provide such an environment. Creating it should start during a server's first contact with guests, whether it is on the floor or at a table. It is up to a server to determine whether guests are 19 years of age or older. If a guest is suspected to be underage, it is the server's legal right and obligation to check ID and refuse service if required. Serving an underage person is against the law. In Ontario, there are strict standards for what can be accepted as valid identification. To be acceptable, the ID must have the following.
Be issued by the government. Include the person's photo. Include the person's date of birth. Examples of acceptable IDs in Ontario include Ontario's driver's license, Canadian passport, Canadian citizen card, Canadian Armed Forces identification card, secure Indian status card, permanent resident card. By law, no one can be required to present their Ontario health card as a form of age identification, and no information can be collected or recorded from this card. However, if Ontario health card is offered by a guest, it can be accepted at a server's discretion.
When asking for age identification, servers should have the guest remove the ID from the wallet and examine it carefully in a well-lit area. The following features can be used to determine whether or not ID is valid.
Owner's date of birth. This date can be used to calculate a guest's age. If the date is scratched, dull, or it looks like it has been tampered with, this ID should not be accepted. Owner's address. The information on the card can be confirmed by asking the person for their address. A guest's physical description, such as eye color and height, can be compared to one stated on the card. Expiry date. Minors often use the expired ID of a family member or friend who has been issued a new one. If the expiration date has passed, this ID cannot be accepted. Owner's photo. The photo on the ID should be checked against the person standing in front. Owner's signature. If in doubt, a server can ask the person to sign a piece of paper and then compare the signature to the one on the card.
When age is verified, it is important for a server to conduct an initial condition assessment of their guests. During this assessment, it is important to note such things as:
Has a guest been drinking before arrival? What mood is a guest in? Does a guest show any signs that might indicate they are taking medication? Is a guest planning on driving afterwards? If not, is there a designated driver at the table? To assist staff in their alcohol service, a traffic light system of green, yellow, and red can be used. According to this system, If a guest seems relaxed, talkative, in control, and happy, it is a green signal for a server to offer this guest alcoholic beverages. If a guest is loud, boisterous, and drinks quickly, it is a yellow sign for a server. In this case, the guest has started showing the first signs of intoxication. Service must be slowed down or stopped to prevent them reaching the point of intoxication.
The following tactics can be implemented to slow down service.
Offering food. Keep in mind that salty foods such as chips, peanuts, or pretzels can make guests thirsty and encourage them to drink more. Therefore, these items should not be offered in order to slow down service. Offering non-alcoholic beverages. Waiting for guests to reorder instead of offering them drinks, and serving only one drink at a time. If a guest is aggressive, glassy-eyed, or shows increased physical and behavioral signs of intoxication, it is a red sign for a server. In this case, service must be stopped immediately, and all servers and managers on duty should be notified of the incident.
The following tactics can be implemented to assist servers in stopping service.
Speaking to a guest privately. A server can minimize confrontation and embarrassment of a guest by expressing concern to them directly. Watching body language. Crossed arms, frowns, pursed lips, or standing too close suggest aggressive approach from a server and can promote hostility and resistance from a guest. Avoid being judgmental. Statements such as, "I think you're too drunk," or "I think you've had enough," can make guests hostile. Instead, a firm but calm approach should be taken by a server. Showing genuine concern statements such as, "We care about your well-being and safety," can demonstrate empathy to a guest and make them more cooperative. When stopping service for one guest at a table, a server should watch out to ensure that this guest is not being given drinks by other guests at the table. If this happens, all service to the entire table has to be stopped, and all alcohol should be removed from the table. Ejecting a guest. If a guest is intoxicated, becomes aggressive, and does not want to cooperate, a server has the right to ask the guest to leave. In this case, a manager on duty should be notified.
Important to keep in mind that a guest rating can change very quickly, as well as up to 30 minutes post-consumption, depending on individual factors. For that reason, a guest rating must be reevaluated every time a drink is being offered or sold to them. If a server is to step out, for example on a break, they must ask another server to look after their table and share their guest ratings, the amount of drinks consumed by each guest, and any other concerns in regards to all guests sitting at a table. Sometimes, despite a server's best efforts, some guests may become intoxicated. In this case, it is the server's responsibility to inform the manager on duty about the incident to ensure the guest's safety on their way home. To prevent a guest from driving while intoxicated, the following tactics may be implemented.
Try to convince the guest not to drive. It's important to be calm but firm and insist that the guest does not drive. Both function manager and security on site can assist in this case. Ask a sober companion to drive. If no sober individuals are present, the server might call a friend or a family member of a guest to come and pick the guest up. Call a cab. A server can arrange or ask their manager to help in arranging a cab ride for an intoxicated guest.
Mtcc in-house policies and regulations. Here at the Mtcc, we help our customers create successful events almost every day. The Mtcc has a set of house policies and regulations that should guide and support all servers in all aspects of responsible alcohol service. Alcohol cannot be served to any guest under the age of 19 years. As a server, you should always watch out for a guest's age. Even if a guest is holding a drink in his hand, do not assume that his or her ID has already been checked. If you have any doubts at all about a guest being 19 years or older, it is your full right to ask them for a piece of ID. Anyone who looks under the age of 25 should be checked, as some guests may look older than they actually are. No guest can be served alcohol to the point of intoxication. As a server, please remember that it is your responsibility to ensure a guest does not get. Open bars at Mtcc are not absolutely unlimited. All alcohol at the bars must be served in agreement with Smart Serve certification knowledge. No more than 2 drinks at a time can be served or sold at a bar in order to avoid guest intoxication. No alcohol should be left unattended. If wine is not preset on the table, it cannot be left unattended anywhere. From the moment you pick up your wine, you are responsible for what happens with it. Wine bottles cannot be left, temporarily or permanently, in service corridors or on side stands without attention. If placed on side stands, all wine bottles have to be covered with linen napkins and be out of reach of guests at a table. No outside beverages are allowed at Mtcc. According to Mtcc's liquor license, only alcohol sold by Mtcc and opened by Mtcc staff can be served on the grounds. If you see guests bringing or consuming alcoholic beverages brought from outside, please inform your manager. If a bottle of alcohol is won in a raffle or such, it cannot be opened or consumed on Mtcc grounds. No alcoholic beverages can leave Mtcc premises. All alcoholic beverages purchased on Mtcc grounds must be consumed on the grounds or left behind. Guests are not allowed to take unfinished wine bottles home. If asked by a guest, kindly explain to them that taking wine home with them will violate Mtcc's liquor license and therefore can absolutely not be done under any circumstances. Alcohol can be consumed in washrooms, on staircases, or escalators. These areas are public areas of Mtcc and therefore require a separate license that Mtcc does not possess. For that reason, please be on the lookout for guests trying to go to washrooms or a different floor with a drink in hand. If such guest is spotted, approach them and kindly ask them to leave their drink behind. Pretending not to see and allowing guests to take their drinks with them violates Mtcc's conduct and might result in liquor license suspension. If you see a guest with a bottle of alcohol rather than just a drink in these areas, inform your manager immediately. We are responsible for our guests' safety even when they leave. Remember, intoxication starts with a first drink. If you suspect that a leaving guest is not in condition to drive, try to convince them to seek another way of getting home. Offer to call guests' friends or family members for them to come pick up. If needed, explain that a taxi ride can be arranged. If a taxi is required, please inform your manager and ask them to address the situation. Responsible for our guests' safety even after they leave. Remember, every action you take represents both yourself and Mtcc. Let's make sure that we all serve alcohol responsibly and do our best to contribute to a safe and enjoyable environment.
Thank you. Thank you.